Hi, my name is Steve Ann Smith, and I am your host for My Little Podcast. My Little Podcast is an interview-based podcast that explores the world of creatives through intimate and thoughtful conversations that seek to inspire and spark discovery through artistic curiosity. This show is for the community of artists, musicians, podcasters, journalists, authors, and content creators that find their purpose through art. We are all interconnected by our love for things we see beyond ourselves. This is my way of sharing our gifts with a larger audience in hopes of contributing to a future that sees life through joy, celebration, and prosperity. Allow us to share your story. Subscribe to My Little Podcast wherever you enjoy podcast listening. Welcome to Hip Hop Now Podcast. If you're from the future, you know what to do. Get your ass out of here. Don't disrespect the legend. Hip hop is here to stay. Let's get right into the business.
What up, y'all? I am your host, Vegas, and this is Hip Hop Now Podcast, a podcast designed to keep you caught up on all things hip hop, music, and culture that happened throughout the week. Big shout out to the supporters of this show over at patreon.com/hiphopnow. If you would like to support this channel, right? Help me get my numbers up. Help me to get to 300 subscribers. That's a small ask. I mean, there's people eating chips who got thousands of subscribers, and y'all watch it. I watch it too. But nevertheless, the link to my Patreon account is in the description of this episode. It may look like I'm poor by looking at the background, but I don't need it to feed my family. I just want to make the channel better. That's all. 50 years of hip hop. We got to say that every time. We got to keep drilling that into your head. We got a dope show for y'all. So, big shout out to hiphopdx.com, allhiphop.com, xxl.com, thesourcemagazine.com, and a couple of different places where I'm getting stories from. Let's get right into the business. So, a couple of weeks ago, I don't even know where it started. I think it was 50 Cent saying that Eminem had a bigger impact on hip hop. Damn, do I have to say pause now? Forgive me, y'all. I'm a little under the weather considering it's allergy season. A couple of weeks back, I believe it was 50 Cent said that Eminem had a bigger impact on hip hop than Jay-Z. And people debated it, and some agreed, some disagreed. You know how it go. And I think recently Tony Yayo appeared on somebody's show who I will not name, basically agreeing with 50, but of course he does. But let's get to the bottom of this, right? Because it says Yayo agrees, right? Let's see what Yayo has to say. This will tie us in. Those that don't know what's going on will tie us in. I mean, for me, and I quote, this is him. I mean, for me, I would say I'd agree because he made the biggest impact on my career. For me, I look at Eminem. I mean, any artist that sells 16 million records, that's number one. But I can see why people put Jay-Z number one because, you know, this guy rhymed with Biggie Smalls. He rhymed with Biggie back and forth. Hard Knock Life, filled out arenas. Can't take no accolades from Jay-Z or Eminem. But I don't know. When you look at these lists, to me, it's hard to really figure out who's number one, who's this, who's that. But as long as you're on the list, I guess it's all good. I think Yayo hit the nail on the head right there. If you're on the list, you're somebody, right? We know these lists can be bogus and stuff like that, but let's talk about it. Who had the bigger impact, Eminem or Jay-Z? Now, bigger impact on hip hop. So all you pop people, get on out of here. I don't even know why you're here. Well, you can stay. Just hit the subscribe button and like the video. But yo, I don't think Eminem's had a bigger impact than Jay-Z. This is why I say this. And I'm not a person who's not a fan of Eminem. Primarily, half the time I will defend things if they make sense, right? I have a couple of his albums. Am I bumping it all the time? No, but I'm not bumping Jay-Z stuff all the time. I kind of listen to Reasonable Doubt only, which is crazy because he got a lot of dope stuff. But this is, to me, why Jay-Z has had a bigger impact than Eminem. Eminem's impact, you would think, would expose more Caucasian fans to hip-hop. Now, I'm not saying there wasn't anybody out there who's white who wasn't a hip-hop fan from day one. We're not talking about y'all. We're talking about those who never listen to hip-hop. And Eminem was their gateway into the culture. It has shown, and a long time ago, I did a podcast about where people's fans were in the country based on some technology and some statistics. And like Eminem had a huge following in the Midwest, and he don't even like those people, right? Not all of y'all, but we know what's out there, all right? We know what's out there. But nevertheless, those fans that really took him to the points of 16 million records sold and stuff like that, most of them did not go on to like other artists in hip hop. Now, I don't mean in general, right? Of course, they may have like 50 or anybody that was on Shady Records. You could say that much. But how many of them went into a deep dive of hip hop after that? Yo, this hip hop thing is crazy. Eminem introduced me. Let me just go and find the history. And now I found Run DMC and Curtis Blow and Fat Boys and and Biggie and Tupac and all these people, right? That hip hop heads think everybody already knows. But no, guess what? Everybody don't listen to hip hop. Don't matter if it's been around for 50 years. They're aware of it, but everybody don't listen. I think it's rare that there are people like that. So you couldn't take the angle of, well, Eminem had a bigger impact because he expanded the audience. You can't say he had a big impact because he's white and he raps. Or he's white and he raps, is he good? And he's good. My thing is, he is hands down the best white rapper ever. That's no debate. And I don't care what under the underground dude you go and pick up. Eminem cooks them. He cooks some brothers too. And we ain't talking about go listen to I Kill Your Mama songs. We talking about you put him in a cypher with him. Some people gonna have some problems. He's just that dope with the lyrical skills, he is. But you can't give him that, right? Beastie Boys were dope. House of Pain were dope. You could come up with a number of dudes who are Caucasian and rap who are dope. We're not talking about you, Logic. Just get your own style, fam. I'm just saying. Yeah, I know I don't really care for him that much. Get me off my square. But no, seriously. I find it difficult to find the impact, right, of an Eminem. Now, I will say his impact is probably more based off of his skills, right? Sure, there are people who have comparable skills to Eminem's, but Eminem made his own seat at the table of hip hop, and it wasn't white folk that let him sit at that table. It was your favorite rappers. And people will say, oh, they just want a little shine off him. They don't need him. Jay-Z didn't need him. He really didn't, right? So to me, Eminem's impact is an impact, right? Not a small impact, but it is an impact. A lot of people had an impact on the game, right? The fact that we're even debating him having a more of an impact than Jay-Z shows that he had an impact. But this is why Jay-Z had a bigger impact. You got to look at Jay-Z's story, right? Jay-Z been around since the late 80s as a young dude running with Jaz-O, getting shined to the point where he's supposed to get a deal. Jay-Z ain't really get popping until about 96. Now you talking about early 90s being around or even late 80s being around, and you don't really get it popping as a solo artist to 96. Most people give up by that time. But that's part of his story, right? The rise to riches. He's like Stringer Bell, but instead of getting murked, by what was it, Brother Muzone and I was gonna say Michael K. Williams. Well, it is Michael K. Williams. You know what I'm talking about. Excuse me, but I think with Jay, it's the rise, right, to the top. That's why I love Reasonable Doubt so much. I loved it back then, but that's why I loved it so much, because it was like a true story of a dude looking at his future, right? Like this is no slight on Nas, and we're not gonna spend too much time on this, but there's no slight on Nas, right? Nas kind of, if I ruled the world, the whole Scarface thing, looking at the blimp. If you think about that scene in Scarface, where he's sitting there looking at the blimp and it says the world is yours, after he done made a move, even before then, he's seeing that he wants to be on top of the world and he's going to get there. He's inspired enough and confident enough to do what he has to do to get there. That's Jay-Z, right? Jay-Z went from not top 10 and not mentioned at all. I'm just takeover for those who don't know. But you know what I'm saying? Like Jay-Z went from rap like the Fooshnickens. All right, I'm a chill. But seriously, he really was not being recognized at the time. And he rapped about it in the song, what song was that? I can't remember. I think it was Lucky Me or something like that. But he basically went from not really being recognized, having to start an independent because he couldn't get a deal because nobody was feeling him, to blowing up with a hit like Ain't No N-Word, right? But we don't cuss on here. And having that hit, right? And aligning himself with Biggie, and Eminem, I'm a chill with the ether bars. But you know what I mean? Like slowly rising, and yes, Big passed, and yes, in some ways people look to Jay-Z to fill that void that Biggie left. In some ways he kind of did. And he just kept going and going, and his bars got even crazier. His sales got crazy by the time Hard Knock Life came out. He was 5 times platinum, when he could barely even go platinum before, right? And he just grew and grew, and then he hit another level when Rockefeller should have been over and Jay-Z should have been over, and then he became a billionaire. Now, if he drops a record tomorrow, people already say it's hot. I mean, when he drops a verse, it's trending. That's impact. If he is in 444, his last album, telling you to have better credit, and people act like that's the first time they've ever heard that, that's an impact. People getting their finances together because Jay-Z said so. That's impact. And I think, again, like I said, everybody has impact. But when you're comparing Jay-Z and Eminem, I think they're just more MCs who modeled themselves after a Jay-Z, whether it's business-wise, whether it's rapping-wise, whether it's confidence, whatever it may be, money talk, whatever. He's had a greater impact. Dudes, and no slight against Eminem, dudes didn't start making a bunch of songs about putting their baby mama in the trunk or killing their moms or whatever Eminem was rapping about. Nobody really did that. Nobody followed that lyrically. So to me, it's about the music, and that impact makes more sense. If you're just talking about sales, Eminem washes Jay-Z, but we already know why because I said why. Jim Jones says he writes rhymes in his sleep. Yeah, he said that. Let's see why. Speaking to DJ Self on a new show, Apartment 5H. Somebody call Kill. Capo explained, this is on hiphopdx.com, explained how he can craft verses while catching Z's. We got to read this. I still write rhymes in my subconscious state of being asleep, you dig? But that is when I'm on me, focused on me. I got the luxury to do that. You heard? DJ Self didn't believe him, by the way, because he says, tell the truth, I don't know. I'm just so focused on smoking and getting high, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. When I'm sleeping in my mind, I'm really fighting with my record. I think he was sleeping when he said this. What you talking about, Jimmy? What you talking about, man? I don't know what you're talking about. Stop it. Stop it, man. Look, it's 2023, and most hip-hop fans who were fans of Dipset, Cam, most of us were fans of Cam. But in these later years, we've become bigger fans of you, Jimmy. Stop it. We don't believe you. The bars ain't crazy enough for us to be like, word? But it sounds good. What you do does sound good. But if you're trying to one-up the I don't write rhymes kind of people, like Jadakiss says and Jay-Z and Big used to say and all that, if you're trying to one-up them, like saying I'm not even woke when I write my rhymes, I got some bars you can go to bed to, kind of like nursery rhymes. It's called We Don't Believe You. You need more people. Okay? Stop it, man. We don't believe. Now, let's just say Jim Jones was high when he said that. And maybe he couldn't find the words to articulate what he meant. Right? Maybe sleeping and maybe dreams gives him ideas about rhymes. Maybe he's refreshed when he wakes up from a good nap. And when he first wakes up, before he can even get himself together, his thoughts are going to his bars and he's like, oh, bye. Right? Maybe that's what he's doing. For those who are listening on audio, I just physically did that. I'm really trying to help him out because there's no way in hell, unless something's wrong with you or aliens are in your brain as you sleep, you're not writing any rhymes while you sleep. You may wake up inspired. You may have had a dream and now you want to kind of write about it or write about what you think that dream meant. But I just think you're just getting too high. So high that you're telling us this. I almost cursed. That you're telling us about this. So stop it. And lastly, so De La Soul Day was a couple of weeks ago. What was De La Soul Day? For those who don't know, well, that was a day where basically De La Soul's entire music catalog was now available on streaming services. Obviously, there were physical copies of the music going around from vinyl to everything. That 3 feet high and rising vinyl, that where the vinyl is yellow, I might buy it just because of that. Just looks dope, right? But it was a day that happened. When I tell you, it felt like every timeline on every social media site was listening to De La. Some people I expected because I knew they were De La fans, and others who probably just saw everybody else and was just like, yo, let's listen too. It's De La Day, right? Well, we have basically the streaming numbers for the first week, and it is ridiculous. You could also read this on hiphopdx.com. De La Soul's catalog earns 12.5 million US streams in first week of being on streaming services, digital streaming platform services, DSPS, excuse me, which is crazy. Let's see. Billboard confirmed the De La Soul catalog registered 12.5 million official on-demand US song streams in the week ending March 9th and sold 28,000 albums, both digital download and physical combined. This is crazy. This is dope. This is dope. And this is dope for those who don't know the backstory, because they did so much to fight to make their music available and to basically benefit off of their work, that this was a dope gesture from fans and a campaign and a sign, 50 years of hip hop, that hip hop is still strong. This is what I was talking about, y'all. Supporting the old school artists. Now, we know Dave Trugoy, the Dove from De La Soul, passed away. We know typically, unfortunately, people tend to go and listen when stuff like that happens. I like to believe it would have happened anyway, but I'm a realist. I know that definitely played a role because of nostalgia, right? This guy's gone. You grew up on him. I grew up on him. And, now his music's available right on your phone. You can go in and live it up. I have an iPhone, and I used to use Spotify, and I typically use Apple Music. And they got a playlist, man, that day was just golden. Because I didn't want to listen to, all the albums. I just wanted to hear like the Best of De La. And I already own the Best of De La, but I just wanted somebody else's version. And I just put that joint on shuffle that day. And I might listen to it like 3-4 times throughout the day, to be honest, because it just reminded you of how dope this group is and was, and how they're a group that rarely gets mentioned when people talk about, the best hip hop groups of all time. It's just great to see this kind of love. So much love that DJ Drama will be releasing a De La Soul Gangsta Grills. Now, I don't know about you, but depending on the artist, if it's an artist I like, the Gangsta Grills always just, I don't know what it is, man. They always seem to be really good. And there's one from De La coming. Now, I will say this. There's part of me that hopes there is a lot of Dave on here. Like, this was something that was already in the works, but we shall see. It says De La Soul's coming to streaming. I can't be more excited. And we got a Gangsta Grills coming, little sidebar. And that was from DJ Drama on Instagram, talking to Rap Radar. So we'll see what it's going to be. I'm pretty sure it might be a combination of a couple of classics, maybe maybe it's a lot of unreleased stuff that they chose to do a Gangsta Grills with, along with whatever they were working on that was new. So it's pretty dope. De La's going to get a lot of love with this kind of momentum, with people listening to the back catalog and then a Gangsta Grills, and maybe there's a final album on the way, featuring Dave, of course. It would just be pretty dope. So I would say to you, you didn't have to just do De La Day. If you didn't get to enjoy the festivities, and maybe it could be an annual thing, go back, whatever streaming service you use, or if you buy digital downloads, or even if you buy physical albums, CDs, tapes. Do people buy tapes? Vinyl. Go and play De La Soul. I'm telling you, it was just a dope experience as a hip hop fan to not only be listening every day to De La when this stuff came out, including The Day, but just to see everybody was kind of doing the same thing and celebrating and sharing De La's music and what they were listening to and the memories and, podcasts about it, everything. It was just dope. So for 50 years of hip hop, I loved it. That's going to do it for me. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok if it's still around at Vegas World INC. And please know that this podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts. All you have to go and do is search in your favorite podcasting app, type the words Hip Hop Now Podcast, and stay locked into weekly hip hop content. Also, if you watch Wu-Tang and American Saga, the series on Hulu, it's the third and final season, and I have decided with guests to review each episode. And it's a number of guests. We're talking Wu-Tang, we're talking hip-hop, and we're reviewing the episodes. That's available right here on this YouTube channel, so you can check out all the reviews. And if you're doing the audio thing, it's already available on this very podcasting stream. Until next time, y'all, I'm not a critic, I'm a fan. Peace.